live thing. Oh, there you go.
Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 9th of October. Is it October already flying now? Would you believe it? And it is coming to the time now where the Conservative Party's conference has made a comeback. And I'm joined by Labour Party support Zach James around all latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
So,
oh, he's gone.
for some reason, I've just gone off screen.
Yeah, you're back. Very
I'm
quick.
back now, back with a bang. So yes, last week it was a turn of the Reds. This week it's a turn of the Blues. Conservatives taking over Labour this week in the party conferences. Parliament, I believe, is due to come back next week. I'm not entirely sure, but
Tuesday.
We have got plenty of news, including, should I say, a kind of boulder dash U-turn by Liz Truss. I'm not referencing the roller coaster at Lake Compounce. This boulder dash U-turn is to do with apparently a 45p tax increase for rich people. Oh, she's U-turned on it. And there is now outrage in the Conservative Party. Michael Gove, kind of the big, should I say, the big cat in the hat in the party at the moment, who apparently is threatening action on Liz Truss right now. She is in big trouble because the party's turning. Even Kemi Badenoch the other day criticising Liz Truss on immigration as well. And it is absolutely damn crazy. So Suella Braverman also got criticised by Kemi Badenoch. The cabinet are turning on each other. This government is certainly not functioning in a very proper way, Zach, isn't it? What's your roundup of that conference the other week up north?
Well, let's just sum this up in very simple terms, right? Okay. When we had Labour's party conference the other week, they were all pretty united. There was very few divisions. You get the odd division now and then, but it was all a very united front, all wanting Labour to do well, wanting Keir Starmer to be leader. And in fairness, they probably had it in the best of circumstances, given what the chaos of the Conservative Party was going on as well. So they had a pretty good conference, and with a very united front and a policy agenda going forward. You can't say the same about the Conservative Party last week as well. Last week, it really did start with a bang, really. Chaos, confusion, Liz Truss doing an interview with Laura Kuenssberg, doubling down on her 45p tax rate on incomes for those basically earning a certain amount. I think it was over £150,000. They called her the ladies not for turning. 24 hours later, well, less than 24 hours later, the lady did turn, announcing a U-turn on the 45p income threshold tax abolition. That is still going to remain. The reason for this was that Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng claimed it was a media distraction, really, to be fair. It's not just a media distraction. It was the growing rebellion in the Tory party against this. It was coming more clear and clearer to the day that the numbers simply was not there to actually include to be actually passed in the Commons if it ever came to a vote. As well, the numbers are simply not there. It was a growing rebellion. Michael Gove, Grant Shapps, a few normal, Johnson-like conservatives that have been in his cabinet before, all coming out against this. A lot of them have come out against it as well. A lot of the backbenchers come out against it. And to be fair, as well, this was she did not back down until the Monday morning, where she announced this big spliffing U-turn on the policy. It was a humiliation and quite frankly, a disaster, to be fair. And everything since then has been a complete meltdown. We've had cabinet ministers openly come out against each other, quite stunningly. I mean, Suella Braverman called basically the 45p income tax overturning basically a coup by Conservative MPs. And on the hot heels of this, we have seen all the polls look at this. I mean, 30-point lead, 29-point lead, 21-point lead, 30 odd, average of 29 points in the poll across the last few days. We've seen Conservative declines like we've never seen before in polling. Liz Truss is extremely unpopular. It's clear to see. And Labour's just about overtaken them on pretty much every metric, bar one or two, in terms of favourability and positivity. Even Keir Starmer's in positive territory, something that you don't often see, probably because of the fact there is genuine Conservative to Labour voters going around in what the polls are suggesting at the moment. But yeah, it's been a chaotic and quite frankly disastrous week for Liz Truss. Yes, her speech on Wednesday was okay. It was nothing spectacular, not exactly a failure either. I mean, she would have got a boost from the fact that Greenpeace had decided to invade her conference.
I saw that, yeah, crazy climate activists.
Climate activist Greenpeace deciding, to stage them basically, a protest right in the middle of the hall. I kind of expected something like that was going to happen, but I suppose in some ways it probably would have benefited her as well. But I suspect the U-turns are probably not going to be ending, or the controversies are probably not going to be ending as well. Watch out for the next fight over this, Charlie, which will probably be the benefits as well. The current plan that Liz Truss is wanting to do is to raise benefits in line with earnings rather than raising it with inflation like Boris Johnson promised to do when he was in government. That is facing also a big rebellion as well. I suspect that Liz Truss will have to do the eventual U-turn on that as well. But there's talks of, coups. Talk about coups. There's talk about in the papers this weekend that Gove or Rishi Sunak could be a caretaker prime minister if Liz Truss can't make it. I mean, bloody hell, we're talking about 1 month into the job and we're all talking about, overthrowing Liz Truss. She must be doing something really bad to be able to get in that position as well. So, yeah, it's been a terrible conference. And I suspect that her battles with Conservative MPs is not going to finish because we got the benefits fight, potentially in childcare, as well as talks of ending the free childcare system. Instead, they're given a certain budget system, which probably doesn't go down well. There's also talks actually that could be extended, to be fair, this free childcare and actually expanded, which would be interesting. But nevertheless, it's an interesting set of controversies that could that Liz Truss has sought on his own right. So yeah, I think it's been a pretty bad week for the Conservative Party, and it's not getting any better. And I expect the reality will be felt when they return to Parliament on Tuesday.
Yeah, and just quickly before we move on, or actually before we go over more news, a YouGov survey of 1,737 British adults carried out on Thursday and Friday for the Times newspaper showed support for Labour at 52%, down 2 points from a poll by the same organisation late September, with the Conservatives with just 1 point up at 22%. Well, seems like to me that Labour are in control at the moment.
They are.
Of the polls. Seems
they
to me
certainly
if
are.
Conservative vote on themselves, or I don't even know what I'm going to vote for come a general election, given I only just got a slip the other week. Yeah.
Well done.
Bad news coming. I have to say, for Liz Truss this week, her immigration comments were quite absurd, really. The fact you're going to give visas out, and then Suella Braverman said we should leave the East sector.
Yeah, it's ridiculous,
Clear cabinet divide, and I back Suella Braverman for saying that, because we've got to get tough on France. We've got to stop these boats coming across, because half of these migrants crossing are, of course, the Albanian group who end up just causing problems, and then young white men come across and get housed in all these hotels in there. It's horrible. We shouldn't be doing that. In my view, also this week in Britain, as well as you might have seen, there's been a petrol station bombing as well. Or I was like bombing, but a destroyed petrol station has killed so many people. Zach, what did you make to that the other day? In Ireland?
You got rid of me for a minute then.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my technical issues tonight.
But yeah, on the petrol station thing, yeah, that was a pretty awful incident. I don't know who caused that, to be fair, but that was a very, very severe incident that happened in Ireland as well. There's been 10 victims, I believe, from what I understand, of the petrol station incident that happened. So yeah, there's name includes Shauna Flanagan Grove, there's a 5-year-old, her father Robert Grave, a 14-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 39-year-old, a 14-year-old as well, all along those that have been caught up in this rather bad explosion as well. This is one of these this area as well in Creslow is just your typical service station. Nothing suspicious about it. But yeah, the thought of exploding petrol station is pretty bad, isn't it? Very severe incident. And we just wish all those families that have suffered, have lost their loved ones, the thoughts and prayers of them, and all the very best, because that was a terrible and quite frankly dangerous incident that happened.
Yeah, and sure, there will be more explosions coming up on the news in a minute, because we're going to move right on now to the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where Vladimir Putin's beloved Russian bridge to Crimea has been destroyed by the Ukrainian forces in the last 24 hours. Russia claimed a so-called car bomb partially exploded the bridge linking Russia to Crimea when Putin actually drove over it quite a few years ago now, in some kind of Russian lorry. I'm sure maybe a company like, say, Lamborghini would use that bridge to probably test drive an Aventador over or something with its howling 6.5 litre V12, but nothing on that there. I mean, would you want to drive an Aventador over the bridge? Probably not. I mean, let alone this bridge being blown up. Vladimir Putin, Zach, has had a horrendous week in Ukraine. Russian forces really struggling.
Yeah, yeah. So the bridge to Crimea. Obviously, this is one of the key projects that Putin built as part of his annexation of Crimea, and it was a big, it was a big treat for him. Really, it was one of his big projects that he created as part of the annexation. It was a huge success for him at a part of the time. But what's happened is that obviously Vladimir Putin celebrated his 70th birthday on Thursday as well. And his 70th birthday present was an exploded bridge in Crimea. This, from the sounds of it, is going to be one of few targets that sound like going to be happening in Crimea for the Ukrainians. Maybe Crimea is back on the market for Ukraine. That just shows you how much this war has moved in favor of them as well. But yeah, the Russians claimed it was an explosion with a train or a lorry or something like that. But what we know, it was the Ukrainians. It looks like the Ukrainians were responsible for the explosion of that bridge. As you can see, all the damage that has been done there. It was a big explosion. A lot of damage done. They've managed to reopen one lane of that, I believe. But the rest of it is so badly damaged that, it's going to take quite a while for it to be repaired, quite frankly. As I understand it, there were apparently no casualties in that incident, which is quite spectacular, actually, considering the fact that happened. But yeah, that is strategically a big target for the Ukrainians, and to damage the bridge into Crimea as well. That's a key sort. I imagine all sorts of logistical areas go across this bridge and funds whatever Russia is doing. So logistically, it was pretty much on the targets of the Ukrainians, but we didn't know they were going to do something like this magnitude, destroying a bridge. Well, that was not on our radar, I have to say. It was a big move by the Ukrainians to target a bridge that mainly, Russia uses as sources to get into Crimea as well. I know it's I know it's partially open still, which may not necessarily have helped, but it's a key target for the Ukrainians, and it's it's a big strike, no doubt about it. What will the response be by Putin is going to be one thing as well. I mean, I know he's convening a National Security Council meeting on Monday, probably with the agenda about this incident. Putin actually spoke earlier, called it a terrorist incident by the Ukrainian state. Wow. I mean, yeah, okay, but have you not looked in the mirror, mate? I was just going to think about that. I mean, Putin's calling this terrorism. I mean, he's not looked in their own mirror, to be fair. What destruction he's caused the rest of Ukraine for no reason.
And just here today alone, Volodymyr Zelensky has vowed that those ordered and issued merciless strikes in Zaporizhzhia will be held responsible. It comes as at least Russian shelling of Zaporizhzhia down from 17 to 12, and the Ukrainian authorities announced that was after missile strikes in Zaporizhzhia the other night.
Yeah, as well. There's been a few strikes actually on civilian infrastructure in Zaporizhzhia. Actually, it killed a number of people. Looks like the Russians are using that as a target. So that, the fact that they've had their logistics damage means they're going to go after civilian infrastructure, which is obviously war crimes in its own right, with the fact that it's killing people who are living in innocent high-rise buildings as well. They're obviously deliberately targeting there as well. It's just clear to see what they're doing as well, because it's clear terrorist action there as well. Yeah, so I mean, like that 12 in Zaporizhzhia came from 6 missiles launched in Russian-occupied area. But one of the key statistics of this war now, as you can probably tell, is that Ukraine have recaptured more than 1,100 square kilometers of land, which is 450 square miles. I mean, I don't even need to times that to tell you how much land that they've regained of its counteroffensive as well. But so that's going quite well as well. So yeah, a lot of happening in Ukraine this week. But I think the key one, obviously, is the attack, the targeting of the Crimean bridge that Putin obviously hailed when he annexed Crimea. So yeah, it's not been a happy belated birthday for Vladimir Putin at all this week.
No, it hasn't been, and you can just see there the White House also have been responding to the news. So of course, Joe Biden warned that there is like a nuclear Armageddon potentially. Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but there was clearly the Biden goal script. I don't know in that one, but I mean, it's clear that Vladimir
on that one, didn't he?
It's clear that I mean, whatever happens, Putin could go nuclear. We don't know. I mean, there are reports going around that he is planning on something, even if he's going to lose his territory. And by the way, we don't know where his borders finish, because Ukraine
we don't even know that,
retaking some of the land he annexed, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson. I mean, look, the Russian president's going to probably end up in trouble. And if his cabinet turn on him, if his inner circle turn on him, it could be the downfall for the President Putin of Russia. It is bad. So comment down below, guys, what you think about the war in Ukraine. Any comments, please keep them up to date. Moving on now from the Charlie Tolhurst show to the next part. Now, I want to talk about some event happening in Thailand. Now, I'm going to say Bangkok is the capital city in Thailand. Please, obviously, guys, if you are saying this word out in public, please be careful. I know I've been in public and this word has used in a very different way, but I'm talking about the capital city of Thailand, which is Bangkok. Formula One were actually going to go there a few years ago, believe it or not. That race got moved, but we're not talking about F1 in this scenario. We're talking about a horrifying massacre over there. And I have the article here to prove it to you exactly what happened. Here it comes. An ex-cop kills 24 children in a knife and gun rampage. It could be well more than the number that I just said there. Attacker kills 24 children, 13 adults in a rampage. Thai daycare centre was for children aged 2 and 5. Most of the victims were children. An attacker killed his wife, child, and shot himself. Absolutely vile. Zach, what do you make to this?
I mean, how are people so cruel sometimes? I mean, the thought of going around killing people in your nursery. I don't understand people these days. There's just it just makes me speechless. The thought of, you know, a police officer as well, a former one that has probably planned this out. I don't know who's radicalized this person, but the thought that this person's gone around actually planned this potentially, and probably has very good experience in policing the types of weapons and, you know, cases that this person dealt with, going around and going to nurse a childcare service, and going around going around with a rampage of a shotgun, a pistol, and a knife in Thailand. What is this? A former police officer who should know better as well. I mean, not only just know better, but like, I don't know what, it's a bit sick in the head, really, to be quite frank. You know, it's quite awful. Who goes around killing innocent, like, nursery children as well? It's disgraceful attack. It's quite upsetting to hear all the details of what happened as well. There's just so many innocent people and children that, you know, have just been taken aback from this as well. So we know that 37 people now died from that incident. There's about 24 of them are children. I mean, come on, it's just, how cruel do you have to be to go around attacking nursery students? It's just absolutely disgusting, and a shameful event that's happened in Thailand. There are lots of people completely shocked, and understandably so. But yeah, it's a horror story. What's happened in Thailand? You know, and a lot of upset families that'll be mourning a loved one, because this police officer, who's in charge of actually preventing crime, has committed, like, pretty much a mass crime themselves. It's just shocking, totally shocking.
And he's using a weapon on himself as well. I mean, it's unbelievable. It was in Arthur Swan, which is apparently 310 miles, 500 kilometers northeast of Bangkok. I mean, utterly horrendous. Thoughts with all those who've lost loved ones in this horrendous event. My thoughts are with all those. It is horrifying to watch indeed. Moving on now to the sport briefing. And we're going to start off with the Premier League football now. Because one of my friends, someone I always talk to, said, can we do the Premier League football first to get all the matches out of the way with? Well, we have plenty of matches. I'm not actually sure if one of the matches has finished. There was actually a late kickoff.
Yes, it has.
Although we'll go through all of the results now. That was the Everton-Man U game that actually was on earlier. Let's go through all the results, including all the weekend's results, because it's a Sunday. So
yeah,
let's start with all of the results for what is, I believe, match day 10. Let's go.
Yes,
so Newcastle 5, Brentford 1, Man City 4-0 winners at Southampton. Brighton lost 1-0 away at home to Tottenham. Crystal Palace beat Leeds 2-1. Everton lost against Man U 2-1. And the big result of the weekend, Bournemouth beating Leicester City 2-1. Chelsea 3, Wolves 0, West Ham 3, Fulham 1, and Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. So, what do you make to the current results for the weekend?
Yeah, let's go through some of them at the moment. Newcastle with probably the big result of the day, of the weekend actually as well. 5-1 against Brentford, a complete demolition there as well. Leicester did win a match, and then was going to win a match, but absolutely stuffed it, game from a winning position. 2-1 loss against Bournemouth away. They were 1-0 up. That's again completely stuffed the match. 2-1. I'm sure there'll be questions about Brendan Rodgers soon. He won last time. I think the questions are going to be right on to his the chopping block again if he can lose the next one as well. So keep an eye on that. Manchester City continuing their unbeaten run of the season, I think. 4-0 win against Southampton. Southampton, dominant fashion as always. Chelsea's Graham Potter era is starting off well. 3-0 against Wolves. Wolves sacked their manager earlier this week.
Bruno Lage, yeah.
Bruno Lage as well. Sacked as well. Wolves are in a bit of trouble in the table, actually. After today's result, they're still in the relegation zone in 18th position. So they've obviously got huge amounts of problems to deal with at the moment. Brighton as well, losing 1-0 to Spurs. Brighton obviously have got their new manager in position now, if I'm correct in saying. So that's good to see as well. Got the experienced Portuguese manager with, very, very experienced and very popular with the style and play. Really, that was expected of them as well. So yeah, it's a good appointment. Brighton have done. Let's talk about today's matches. West Ham are back to winning ways, 3-1 against Fulham. They look like they're getting better now. Certainly the confidence is building up. And one of the key players that are providing this good form is Gennaro Scamacca as well. I mean, he's scored in the last 5 matches now. It's great West Ham have played. It's great result for him, 3-1 from Bowen, Scaramouche and Mikhail Antonio as well. Palace v Leeds was another good game earlier. 2-1 Palace coming from 1 behind. Very important result for them as well. It was Stewart that scored the first goal for Leeds, and Usuduma Eduara and Ebrigi Eze was scored the Crystal Palace goals after Leeds scored. So coming from behind to win 2-1. Arsenal with a big game today. Arsenal-Liverpool, another crucial win for Arsenal. 3-2. They did come close, but Bukayo Saka with 2 goals in the 50th minute in the first half, a penalty in the 76th minute. Martinelli scored after 1 minute of the game gone. Pretty incredible. And then the other goals were within Darwin Núñez and Roberto Firmino. But Liverpool are absolutely struggling at the moment, I have to say. At the moment, they're really in bad form. And Manchester United 2, Everton 1. Cristiano Ronaldo today scored his 700th club goal. Incredible milestone for Cristiano Ronaldo. He's back in form, certainly today as well. So yeah, great result for Manchester United. And there's one more game tomorrow as well to match into the match day. It will be Nottingham Forest v Aston Villa, a nice little Midlands derby. That's going to happen next tomorrow as well.
Yeah, these are all the matches for next week. I can see here Brentford, Brighton, Man City, Man United, Newcastle, Liverpool, Man City will probably be one of the main games. That's next Sunday, kickoff at 4:30. Leicester play Crystal Palace next week.
Yeah, and the Friday night game will be Brentford, Brighton. Tottenham, Everton is also the televised game on the Saturday. The televised game on Sunday, I believe, there's going to be 5 matches on the Sunday. Actually, most of them are actually going to be on the Sunday. So I believe the televised game is going to be Aston Villa v Chelsea as well. Apologies, my phone is going off. People are calling me. I'll just ignore that for now. But in the game on that one is Aston Villa Chelsea, and obviously the big match is Liverpool v Manchester City. It's going to be a very key test for Manchester City, that one as well, on next Sunday at 4:30. And there's also Champions League action again this midweek as well. Should point that out, including Rangers v Liverpool. That was a Liverpool win last time out. We're going to do the reverse fixtures on Tuesday and Wednesday. Copenhagen with Manchester City on the Tuesday. AC Milan and Chelsea again go on Tuesday. And as I said, Rangers Liverpool Wednesday. And Tottenham and Frankfurt also on the Wednesday as well. That's all the Champions League fixtures coming up on the Wednesday.
That's all the football news. We'll be back next week for more of that on football. time now for the main news of the weekend, which is the Formula One World Championship.
Yes.
Now, if you got up at 6 o'clock this morning, which I didn't, thankfully, I was laying in my bed. I can tell you one thing, because I have watched the highlights of the Japanese Grand Prix. The race didn't finish long after I got up this morning, because it was a 3-hour rain-delayed race. Not even full distance got completed in the end. And Max Verstappen is officially now a 2-time Formula One world champion. Obviously, we do pen Monday's FIA publication into the cost cap, which I'm hoping probably no rules were broken, but we don't know yet. So we can say for are certain that Max Verstappen is a 2-time world champion for Red Bull. But Zach, very interesting ending, because Charles Leclerc got given a 5-second time penalty as the Ferrari driver cuts the final chicane whilst trying to overtake Sergio Perez, and Sergio Perez was actually attacking.
You can you kick me out again?
Touchscreen tonight. What do I do?
I don't know. But yeah, first of all, Max Verstappen is a 2-time world champion, as you said as well. I'm not surprised. It's quite simply he's driven incredibly this season, no doubt about it. And he won it in, I have to say, those bizarre circumstances. I mean, what's it with Max Verstappen and not winning the title normally? Come on. I mean, it's a bizarre way to win the championship. But the expectation was, because of the reduced race and because of a Sciences crash and because of the weather that was going on earlier, where we had rain delay after rain delay, and, it looked like we were going over the 3-hour limit. We did actually get about 23 laps in. That Verstappen could win, but would still be able to, go over to the next race where we need a couple of points at least to win the championship. But interestingly enough, the championship's over now, because, as you said, Perez trying to obviously battling with Leclerc on the last lap of the final corner, the second last corner, should I say. Leclerc cutting over the track, obviously got forced off wide. It looked like he went a bit fast and gained a little bit of advantage. So 5 seconds was added on. And what that meant after the race, because Max Verstappen was crossing the line thinking he wasn't going to be world champion. And then we got the penalty in. And the confusion as well, because all the media was saying, the commentators were saying as well, that we didn't get enough way of distance to be able to get 4 points. But because the race did resume, based on the interpretation of the regulations and not stopped, basically 4 points were awarded. Verstappen won the world championship because Leclerc was demoted to third because of his penalty. We didn't find out about the championship winning moment until after the race, during the interviews. That was quite the spectacular way to find out a world championship. But yeah, it's a weird way, a bit of an anticlimax way to announce a championship as well. You don't really want to decide it off the track, but I'm glad the FIA took swift action in this instance to get a penalty out there if needed required. But I think also the topic of the race as well is not what happened to Max Verstappen winning the championship. What's going to be also the topic of the race, Charlie, I'm afraid, and this is going to be a very haunting topic now, is there was a crane on the racetrack whilst it was covering Carlos Sainz's car. Obviously, there's visibility and sprays issue with heavy rain, and the fact that there was a crane on the circuit whilst many drivers were passing it and the visibility was poor, it's just totally unacceptable. It feels like nobody has learned their lessons in the FIA as well, about the fact that, the last time we had a crane on the circuit in Japan, it resulted in fatal circumstances for Jules Bianchi. And you know how Pierre Gasly was pretty impassioned about this. I know he got a penalty for speeding on the red flag, but the whole point about it was not the fact he sped on the red flag. The FIA was dumb enough to put a crane on the circuit, Charlie. And I couldn't believe they did that. I just could not believe they were stupid enough to put a crane on a live circuit whilst all the drivers around, and marshals as well. There was a marshal on a live circuit as well whilst Carlos was going by and you couldn't see him. it was just totally unacceptable, and there has to be a review of this, which the FIA are going to be doing. But it's just, you cannot do what the FIA did today, and the clerk of the court, and send a crane onto a live circuit when cars are by.
It's not even Michael Massey for a start.
No, don't you need Michael Massey to know how terrible officiating still is, to be fair. But it was just plain unacceptable. And hopefully there's going to be lesson learned from what happened, really, because that was not on at all.
Yeah. And whilst we're here, guys, we are actually going to play in the investigation into this. Analysing the recovery vehicle incident by the Japanese Grand Prix of Sky Sports F1, giving you some analysis of what happened. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, thank you, Croft. Yeah, drag Paul out of the warm to come and have a look at this. So, first of all, we're going to go on board with Max Verstappen. I think this is important here to give it a bit of context. Max is behind the safety car. They're going to play it at real speed. Now, Paul, what I want to point out is as they come up to the incident, the recovery vehicle is already there. So the safety car and the entire train, behind Max included and behind him, go past that recovery vehicle, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And we're under double yellow flags at this point as well, in a sense, with the safety car. You need to be prepared to stop, which I think they are more than capable of doing. And you can see they're actually avoiding the debris. The safety car has slowed them down, and all the drivers taking the action to stay out of the way of the incident, and obviously the tractor we saw.
And we've seen tractors and recovery vehicles on track. We should explain to people, even as recently as Monza, we came back on the safety car when they were recovering with Daniel's car, remember, on that occasion, wasn't it?
And this is a normal thing. We see them when the race is neutralised, when nobody should be making an intention to overtake or race each other. That's the way of recovery. It keeps the race moving. It keeps under safety car conditions without going to red flag to move it on that bit sharper, and the process is in place.
Exactly. So Pierre Gasly was in a different situation in terms of positioning because he wasn't behind the train. He hit it at the end of that opening lap to get that billboard removed off the front of his car. So he's pushing on. You can listen here. And he's going a lot faster than anyone else is on track.
Yeah, I mean, I think when they get here, when you freeze it, if we just stop it here for at this point, I think when he looks back at his onboard camera, when he's been trying to catch up, he is considerably quicker than what the other cars were passing that incident, which is why they were maybe not quite as upset as he was. And I'll let you play it on just so you can show people where the red flag.
Yeah, because at this point, I think I'm just going to slow it down here and just roll it along, because keep an eye on the steering wheel, and I will zoom in a second. Oh. Hang on. There we go. Right. At this point, the red lights have come on his steering wheel. The red light has come on there on the side of the panel.
And I think we can see just
go on, you
here
can
as well. Just over here. That's what we're looking for in his visibility.
And presumably, the team, they would have already seen the incident being recovered. He would have already seen Carlos's car there. So, he should have known, presumably either by himself or through the team, that there was actually a thing going on, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a question I don't know if the teams are instructed that there's a vehicle on track as well that can go back to the driver. Something I don't know, because I've only ever been in the hot seat. I've never sat on as an engineer's position to give that information to a driver.
Yeah, but I think, as you rightly pointed out earlier with Max, it's double wave yellows, and now with the red, it's a clear instruction to the driver. We know this from junior Formula racing. If you've got double wave yellows on track, you have to go at a speed where you can be prepared to stop
and pass safely and be prepared to avoid an action at any point.
And he quite clearly is going a lot quicker than anyone else was behind the safety car.
If you look at the speed, you're going to say, 2 to 3 times quicker, I would say. He is on the extreme line because he had to make that pit stop. It's never nice to see tractors on track. I 100% agree. Not in a nice place as well. But at the same point, it's the speed you go by that maybe it gives you that fear.
So there you go, guys. We've managed to get the footage, but I think it's important to put that context in terms of the bigger picture of it. So hopefully that clarifies a few things.
Thank you there to the Sky Sports F1 team for that update on what happened. I just want to say though, in the media reports, they were actually both slammed Karim Chanduk and Paul di Resta for their comments. Zach, what did you make to their comments?
I thought they were poor, quite frankly, to be honest. I think they totally misread the whole situation. You mean, yes, Gasly was going fast, and he did eventually get a penalty for the situation. I don't think it was related to the tractor, the corner where the tractor was. Gasly was going fast, but yet they totally misrepresented the fact that it sounded like in that piece they scapegoat Gasly in this one. The whole point of this, right, okay, was the fact they should have identified that there was a crane on the circuit in wet conditions. There's no lights on it, no clear lights, and we have cars speeding, probably over 100 miles an hour, whilst there's a crane and a marshal on the circuit. Nobody can see a thing. It's just plain unacceptable. I think that's the whole purpose of it. I think they totally missed the purpose. The fact that they sound, I know Chandok sort of U-turned and basically clarified positions, but I just think they missed the whole point. The only ones that seemed to get it throughout the whole analysis and realization was Crofty, Jenson Button, and even Ted Kravitz for that fact. Even Simon Lazenby was like, being reasonable and assessing the situation as he saw it. So they totally misrepresented it, unfortunately, which is a real shame because they're pretty good, but it was totally looked at it totally the wrong angle, looked like the scapegoating the driver. And you could tell that Pierre Gasly was incredibly emotional in his interview afterwards about the tractor and the situation as well.
I think it's appalling what the comments were said by the Sky F1 team. You've got to take responsibility. It's a political decision that they're trying to make, and Formula One needs to be a safe sport. And what happened to Pierre Gasly was shocking. I hope he could have even been killed. It's like remember Jules Bianchi. He died a year after what happened. If Gasly died, we would have been in trouble. And obviously, he's moving next year to obviously going to Alpine, and we've got Nick de Vries coming in at AlphaTauri. Very interesting driver moves. And obviously de Vries will move from Formula E to F1. So Mercedes EQ will find a new replacement. So more on Formula E another time, with the season then starting in January. I'm going to touch on NASCAR Cup Series now, which last week raced at the Talladega Super Speedway, and Zach, Chase Elliott putting himself firmly in contention for the final part of the playoffs.
Yeah, Chase Elliott managed to get a very crucial last lap run and holding off as well. He did great job of managed to get into the front, hold off, get the draft, and a very popular winner actually. I have to say, Chase Elliott as well. Big win for him. He's one of the playoff drivers as well, so he's automatically through to the next round, which is extremely, extremely critical. What's happened with him as well. That's a big, big victory for Chase Elliott as well. It wasn't. You have to say, it wasn't the crash fest I expected to be honest. As well, it was quite. It was a bit action packed, but without the crashes. No doubt about it. It was an interesting one, you have to say. But Elliott winning was, great win for him. He's going to the next round. Blaney just missed out again in second position. Could have won that. Michael McDowell could have also won that. Ross Chastain could have. Any of the top 5 to 10 could have won that. Ross Chastain fourth, Hamlin fifth, as well. Let's go through the others. Eric Jones 6th, Todd Gilliland 7th, Suarez 9th, Austin 9th, and Chase Briscoe in 10th position as well. What that meant for the standings, Charlie, was obviously Elliott is now through the next round. We know that because of his playoff victory win in Talladega. But there are still other places to be done now. Going into the next round, then really going to be crucial because this is, I believe, is the final one before we find a cutoff point and we go from 12 to 8. This is going to be the last, and we're going to come out to the final stages now. So anyone above Daniel Suarez, anyone below Daniel Suarez, should I say, is going to get knocked out. So Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman are all in the danger. Alex Bowman is pretty much going to be out because he's not racing at the moment. Understandably, because he's got concussion. We wish him well. But Christopher Bell, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe are going to have to work their way to get up to the points ladder to get through into the final 8. So anyone above, Chase Elliott's in. We know that. Blaney is pretty safe at the moment, I would say. But it's up to Ross Chastain below to be able to get into the final 8, which is happening this weekend in Charlotte. Should point out, because we're obviously talking today, there's a race ongoing at the moment, I should say, Charlie. Chase Elliott is the one leading at the moment, so this could be his second consecutive ring if he keeps this up. Tyler Reddick is in second, AJ Allmendinger is third, Harvick is fourth, Josh Haley's fifth, Mike McDowell sixth, Christopher Bell is seventh, Gregson is eighth, Austin Dillon ninth, is Cole Custer is 10th. So it's a bit of a mixed up field, to be honest, as well. But the one I can see that is doing quite well and putting himself in a good position is Christopher Bell. He needs to get some big points. And if he's finished where he are, I think he might be able to get through into that top 8. But it all depends on what else happens in the race as well. A lot of action. They're on lap 92 at the moment, I think, Charlie, as well. So
Ryan Blaney's got to do well if he's going to get into the playoffs, because he's
a lot could happen at the end of this race. So that's up to lap 92 at the moment. And next week, when NASCAR does return, they're going to go to Las Vegas at the South Point 400. It will be a 2:30 p.m. start for that one. 2:30 US time, 7:30 UK time for that one at Las Vegas, where the round of 8 will begin, Charlie, and we're going to be 4 rounds away in the season left, crowning a champion. As well, the Xfinity Series yesterday was AJ Allmendinger winning the race ahead of Ty Gibbs, ahead of Noah Gragson, ahead of what was this one? The 18, James Davison in the 18, Justin Allgaier 5th as well, Alex Labby in 6th position as well, Brandon Jones 7th, Josh Berry 8th, Ryan Sieg 9th, and Landon Castle in 10th position as well. The Xfinity Series is also racing at Las Vegas next weekend, and not the Truck Series is back at Miami in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, we also have confirmation that Hallie Deegan also, I think, is going to be joining the Xfinity Series as well, which will be very interesting to see. Obviously, she's very popular on YouTube. She's got a contract Ford. She actually has a Ford Mustang, believe it or not. Interestingly. So yeah, I'll be wondering to see how they all get on in that. Well, moving on now from the sports news, Charlie's good news comes back with a couple of parties today to the good news. We're going to start off, though, with the showbiz part of the good news segment. I've actually got to watch this because I haven't seen it, but I will go through it now, which is, of course, The Voice UK has confirmed its 10 places on the teams. The callbacks start next week, and Zach, plenty of action in that.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be plenty of action in the Voice next week. This is the new stage of the competition, by the way, the callback. So they're going to race. This is going to be the final stage before getting into the semi-finals and the finals as well. This is going to be a crucial, really, really crucial element of the stage. But the callbacks is a new one where they got to sing their way into the semi-finals as well. So they carry on Team Tom. It's Anthony Edwards as well, 25-year-old nurse as well. We've got a duet for Amelia Parry Williams and Thomas Motshead as well, 25 and 30 from Wales. Lee Jones, 50-year-old from Kent. Rachel Modest as well, 45-year-old. Claire Cotterill, 31-year-old. Roy Christensen as well on Team Tom. Jake of Diamonds as well. Joined Team Tom as well. Francesca Fairclough, 27 years old. There's Toby Kay as well, 34-year-old. That's from Team Tom. And T-Well is Cleo Clayton. Very, very, very crucial contestant there. Good voices. Has Rain Castiello as well. The second one, the third one is Nueva. Performed Alicia Keys. Eddie Pop as well. Nice name. 28-year-old from Australia, performed Break Even. Rihanna Keane as well, performed Leave the Door Open. Very, very strong Smoky Coco, a rap duo of Alex and Real from Telford. These words remix as well. Kira Mack, as well as on Team Will, and Naomi Johnson and Naomi Nolan as well. Tia Marie as Lucas Miles, Mark Howard. I thought it sounds like Mark Howard from the Take That, but obviously not. When you hear Mark Howard, you hear I think of someone from Take That, but yeah, okay, just ignore me for a Harrison James as well. Kai Benjamin with an incredible voice, 18 years old as well. Great performance. A group called Monroe, made up of teachers. Hannah Rowe, Trinity Josie, 32-year-old teacher in London. Mia Lake, a lot of teachers you have to say on this these teams as well. 16-year-olds, Olivia Mason, 21-year-old, Ruby Joyce, 18.
And I'll go through Team Molly, which is David Onojin, 20-year-old, the Betty brothers, Shaka, Benjamin Moss, Mark Halls, Andreas Cruz, who was one of the first performers on the show, Tom Hartley Booth, performed the song by God Only Knows, the Beach Boys, Adela Brothers, Olivia Mulkey, and they will be the artists going into the callbacks, which start next week, and I will certainly be watching the final episode of the blind auditions later. But Charlie's Good News returns with a new part that I'm going to be talking about very quickly. Men's trainers this week.
Oh,
now,
men's trainers.
Okay, now as you guys know, I do love trainers, and I watched a video the other day on YouTube of a guy called Josh Sullivan. I'll link him in the description below. Josh Sullivan also owns a company called Soulfit Clothing, doing some videos on trainers. So, guys, what are the best smart trainers you can buy? Well, that's what I'm going to be taking you today, because there are so many options when it comes to the best trainers, and there are loads of ones that we would consider, and I think, honestly, you can create lots of different outfits with them. So here we go. Here are the best trainers that I want to give you guys. So, best smart trainers you can buy. Well, up here we have quite a lot of them. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through them. So one of the best gym trainers is the Nike Metacon 8. This design is a trainer ideal for cushioning and weightlifting. The mesh upper cushion features slip-on laces and flexes on the foot. Completes regular temperature, whilst the wedge sole also has a last deadlift. That's 114 pounds as well. We also have the Stan Smith's, a very iconic Adidas shoe that is actually made up of 50% of recycled materials and 100% rubber waste. Best walking trainers, we've gone for the Asics Gel Nimbus 124. That's 165 pounds as well. New Balance also offer the 327s, very iconic shoe, if you're after walking trainers. Best slip-ons, we've gone for the Allbirds T-2 for 125 pounds as well. If you're after some best smart trainers, these are the Axel Arigatos, the Clean 90s, 170 pounds. Perfect paired, all white. You can get black as well. Best designers are the Triple S from Balenciaga, if I pronounced that right there. Also, the best Converse, the classic Chuck Taylors, the All-Star 70s. Very iconic canvas sneaker. I see a lot of people wearing that on the street, especially around somewhere like New York City. The best Vans are the Old Schools for £65. An iconic Van shoe. A lot of people love it as well. Best minimalist trainers are the Vija V10s, 130. Wow. Very, very expensive. As well, we've got Gucci's, the Nano X2s, the H&M's if you want cheap ones for £29. And of course, the best designer trainers, it says oversized leather sneakers. That will go to the Alexander McQueen's. White leather trainers. Everyone from Ronaldo to Jay Fox will be a fan. That will probably cost you over £300, £400 for one of them. Ouch, indeed. And you also have the Fred Perry canvas. But one of my special mentions, if you're after a pair of luxury trainers is to go over and check out a company called Armclo, who offer the leather essential trainers. Go on the website here, guys. For £95, you can get a pair of the On leather essentials. These trainers look very nice. Trust me, they're not like dress shoes, but I've seen a couple of people. Someone actually wore them to a wedding I went to once. Not that type, but similar type. The On Essentials leather trainers. I've got leather handcrafted shoes made in Portugal, apparently. They are actually really, really beautiful. I do apologise that this website is taking time to load up. I do apologise for that. Here we go, guys. Well, here is a picture of what I'm on about. This is the essential leather trainer in black and white. Size 6s have sold out, but this is the trainer. They're £95. To do that, all full of leather. Zach, what do you make to some of the recent trainers that I've suggested for people to buy?
Oh, don't they look good? I mean, this one as well. I like the white edges as well. They make a cool, like, kneecap and everything like that. The edge of it's quite good. Lace is well styled and as well. Oh, what was that? That was the blue one as well. Wasn't there a blue one that you showcased? That was really good looking on the top as well. Especially got some cool ones as well. But this is trainer season, I would say, as well. This is really a good time to pick up some new trainers as well, because you're going to... it's very simple, really, to be honest. It looks really good. What's been offered and what's on sale, it looks great. There's all good qualities as well. So I think take the opportunity when you can find it and get some pairs.
I think as well, if you're on a cheaper budget, you've got companies like Berkshire, Pull and Bear, even River Island do some nice trainers. Should people go for high tops or low tops, Zach? What do you think?
It depends on, if you prefer low tops, then go for that. If you prefer high tops, I'm not necessarily an expert on that one, but if be fair, it's up to you. If you prefer low tops, then you go low tops. If you prefer high tops, you go high tops. It's a bit of a difficult one for me to judge. I'm not really obsessed with what ones are high tops and low tops, but I've got trainers actually, quite new ones, and they were quite good as well. Got it discounted and they're very good quality.
Yeah, it's good fashion trainers. I really think, honestly, you can pair some great outfits with them. So, yeah, keep an eye on them. Obviously, you can go and check out Josh Sullivan over on Soulfit Clothing, and also various other channels like Real Men, Real Style. If you want to listen more into the world of fashion, because trust me, trainer season is here. And I tell you what, if I said as well, I think this year get a pair of black trainers, especially given the white ones are, even though the white ones are really nice, the black ones will be better to blemish, especially if we get, say, snow or rain this time of the year, and they won't get ruined. Just be aware, you don't want to get your trainers ruined as well. So time now, guys, to move on and talk all things the papers now. It is time for tomorrow's papers. Of course, let's go through them. And it's the 10th of October tomorrow.
Yeah.
As well. So Monday's new papers, the new week starts here with the new latest newspapers. The Daily Express goes, Rebels urge to stop plots and show loyalty. That's the first headline. The Eye goes, the Prime Minister scrambles to save the Premiership as Tories warn of wipeout. The Metro goes, for wraith of Putin, Russian targets civilians after Crimea blast. The Daily Star goes, for let them heat cake, hard up Brits keep warm in bakeries as bills bite. And the Financial Times goes, with unwise OPEC plus production cuts threaten the global economy, says Yellen. Zach, what do you make of the current latest papers?
Yeah, probably get more papers as they come in, actually. Let's start with the Daily Express, though. This looks like some reporting that the Daily Express have done. Big capital level, rebel urge to stop plots and show loyalty. We didn't see much loyalty at Conservative Party conference last week. Certainly a lot of counterproductive briefings, infighting, U-turns, all that sort of thing. There's been a sort of a united message going out on the Sunday broadcast rounds this morning. Nadine Zahari was certainly one of them that's going around with the messages as well. One of those I should point out, one of those that has been really vocal about the criticism this week as well is not someone you expected, because this one was actually Liz Truss supporter in the leadership race when it happened as well. Nadine Dorries, do you remember her quite well? She's been very vocal about criticism with Liz Truss. She's not happy with the direction the party's going in. She says the party's going too far to the right, which out of Nadine Dorries, what's happened to her? She's become the voice of reason all of a sudden. God, I used to hate her. Now she's like the voice of reason. All of a sudden. I mean, she called for the benefits increase with inflation. What's happened to her? Is she all right? Maybe she's going to get a lucky period, in the Lords very soon, potentially. Who knows? Maybe she needs to be nice for now and then get her period and whatever. But yeah, it's quite a spectacular call out that Nadine Dorries is certainly be doing. Certainly not Rees Mogg. Big Guns Jacob Rees Trees Coffee led the calls yesterday, urging colleagues to end the infight and mark Liz Truss's first month's leader as well. So yeah, that's the front of the Express. The Prime Minister is expected to offer a concession to discounted MPs and raise welfare benefits in line with inflation, even though it's against her policy to rein in public spending. That is an expectation, according to one Tory source as well.
Maybe Rishi Sunak, probably.
Well, I bet Rishi Sunak will be wanting that sort of policy to be in there as well. The I newspaper has PM scrambled to save her premiership as Tories warn of wipeout. Crikey, I have to say. Yeah, like we said, Charlie, we've been talking about 1 month and been talking about wipeout for Liz Truss and the coup save her premierships. It's quite something to hear about it. Liz Truss will seek to win over MPs in crucial week of quite the show. They include a second cabinet meeting, PMQs, which is returning this week as well, and a 1922 committee meeting, and claims she faces an icy reception. She will display reforms to persuade plotting backbenchers united behind a leader. Cabinet ministers plead for unity. One veteran MP to tell the will get rid of her. I can't see how she sacked and obstructed anyone who didn't not support her to carry on. Most of us don't think Truss is very good. You voted her in as the leader, so what else did you expect, really, to be fair? Quite credible, really. The Metro goes Wharf of Putin. This is a Russian, Ukraine-based one. Russia targets civilians after Crimea bridge blast. 13 dead, including a child, in yet another war crime. This is the attacks on Zaporizhia as well, which injured at least 87, killed 13. And that was the apartment that was blown up by the Russians. That is obviously a response to the fact that obviously Ukraine targeted the Crimean bridge as well. But as that was an event, we may see here what Putin's going to do at this National Security Council meeting tomorrow as well. We'll see if there's going to be any other measures that they're going to quietly plot as well. But it's obviously a very serious situation with the bomb, the civilian targets, war crimes being committed, so much there as well. It's quite something, as well. A child was also killed in that as well. It was dubbed the Wharf of Putin, the attack as well. It certainly is the Wharf of Putin. The Daily Star. Well, this is an interesting front page. Let them heat cake. This is interesting. The Daily Star reports that British families struggling to keep warm during the cost of living crisis are heading to bakeries to stay warm. Yes, that's seriously a headline in 2022 Britain. Cash-strapped Brits are heading to bakeries to keep warm because they haven't got enough dough to heat their homes in the cost of living crisis. When the point is, when you're running out of gas, you run out of electricity, and you need dough to keep the house going. Yeah, we have Houston, we have a problem, as they used to say. using dough cakes to heat your home. Speaking of which, there was reports this week. National Grid are having to consider serious situations, Charlie, with rolling grid power blackouts this winter. Although it's unlikely, they are preparing for the possibility of it. I think I read somewhere, Charlie, that there was one section where it said they could have to go 3 hours a day. People could have to go 3 hours a day without electricity. How am I ever going to watch my TV if I'm out? If I'm in the home and my power goes out? What if it's during an F1 race? God, I don't know how I'm going to react. I might not have to go anyway because I'll probably be in the evening. Most of the F1
That's
races.
8 o'clock if you want to know when the United States Grand Prix races, and that's in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, 2 weeks of time as well. But yeah, the thought that we're going to have power blackouts is pretty serious as well. Oh, and speaking of which, of oil prices as well, the Financial Times go for unwise OPEC plus oil production cuts threatening global economy. So OPEC, which obviously controls the global oil industry, is cutting back on their oil production as well. By the way, that's the what they've decided over this week as well. So they have cut back on oil production. I can't remember how many barrels they're going to be cutting back by. But they are making the first cuts since the pandemic as well. They've agreed deep oil production cuts as well. They're going to cut their output by 2 million BPD. Real cuts estimated at 1 million as well due to underproduction. The US has criticised this decision to cut oil production as well. It's already a tight market, as you probably know, but the US has criticised it, saying it's called it unwise, unnecessary. And the US even went far as saying that the OPEC is basically in the hands of the Saudis and the Russians these days. Not wrong, could be honest. This decision will probably be welcomed by the Russians because then it means they can squeeze as much oil as they can to, put blackouts in the winter and, put more on the shedding of their misery and oil production. To be honest, Saudi said the West was criticism driven by welfare argument. Saudi said cut necessary due to rising interest rates. Maybe it's just because of their own political agenda that they're more worried about as well. But what this could mean is that oil prices could go up because of the cuts in production. It's going to get more expensive to buy and use oil, which could, if you're replacing the United States and the president of the United States, you don't want to be hearing that sort of thing, to be fair, because this, there's midterms coming up. And last thing the president wants to be associated with, again, is higher gas prices and higher oil prices. Again, he will not want to be associated with that as well. So it's a pretty serious decision by OPEC to cut their oil production as well. By the way, we have another front page that's just come out, Charlie, whilst we're here.
It's The Guardian.
It's The Guardian. Rebels pile pressure on PMs over benefits of 450,000 face poverty. The Guardian reporting Liz is too close to another major U-turn. Tory MPs are warning that if she goes ahead with benefits increased via earnings rather than inflation, she will lose that vote. So we're going to get ready for an inevitable U-turn, I imagine, as well. This is going to. I think it will end up in a U-turn, Charlie. I think 450,000 this winter facing further poverty because of obviously rising costs and not obviously, the fact that they're not going to be earning enough and not getting the benefits as well. It's a pretty shocking scene, to be quite honest. And it'd be such a mad error to cut, to raise benefits by earnings instead of inflation as planned. It'd be a mad decision not to. And quite frankly, it's gonna, if you don't do it by earnings, it's going to leave the poor even poorer off. It'd be disgraceful, quite frankly. So it needs to be rising. In my opinion, it needs to be rising by inflation. Otherwise, there's going to be an absolute outroar over this. There's already an outroar on Tory benches by the sounds of it. I think the inevitable U-turn by Liz Truss is coming, I think, Charlie. But yeah, that's the papers for tomorrow.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, I have to say. And I think, well, how can we bring the Prime Minister gets another U-turn? She didn't need to U-turn on the last one. Liz Truss decided to. And it's now caused outrage within her party. Oh, God. Wow. Now it's time for the Great British Stars and Red Devils of the Week. We're starting with my Great British Stars this week. And my first nomination is this news story that I'm going to present to you now. And I would like to show you this very, very importantly. Because a stowaway cat has been reunited with its family in Oban after a sea crossing. A stowaway cat has been reunited with her owners after travelling hundreds of miles in the back of a van to Cole. Tia sneaked inside her neighbour's Dougie Craig's van before he was loading to fix it, a broadband connection from Cole's fire station. Several hours after the open reach engineer had completed the job, he had been spotted in her van. The pet was reunited with its owners in Elsty and Martinhampton, and their children Stanley and Beatrix the following day. Unbeknown to the driver, Tia was in the van for 3-hour ferry crossing to Anigra in the Inner Hebrides. The 31-year-old noticed all the hairs over the Tories bag in the right front and saw two eyes. Mr. Craig said at first, thought Cole's cat had sneaked there, but I got a closer look and realised. I thought, oh no, I've caped my neighbour's pet. So Tia the cat gets one of my nominations for the Great British Star for quite a huge journey. And this guy who's going to get the nomination, I think Dougie Craig, for bringing her home to her family, is pretty special, I think. So that's one of my stars. Also, another Great British Star this week goes to Tom Ingram for winning the 2022 Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. I'll give you a picture of Tom Ingram here. He drives for the Accelerate Trade Price Cars team, which uses a Hyundai i30N fastback. That is a Hyundai i30N fastback. He won 6 races in the victorious 2022 BTCC campaign. He won the opening 2 races to move Hyundai into a strong position to win the championship. Outgoing champion Ash Sutton was the runner-up in the standings at a BMW duo Jake Hill and Northern Ireland's Colin Turkington. Hill was third to boost his title hopes, while the damage to Ford of Sutton's was 4th, and Turkington was 5th, having charged up the order from 10th. Obviously, though, Sutton and Hill did collide during one of the races, which is why Ingram ended up capitalising, taking pole and winning the first 2 races. So Tom Ingram, congratulations, the 2022 Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship winner there. My Red Devils of the week, well, I can't say enough this week if you've been in stabbings, because the nomination goes to 3 people. The nomination goes to this person here. 3 people were stabbed in central London in a suspected robbery this week. So the nomination of the Red Devil goes to the person who stabbed these 3 people. Police officers in a London ambulance, LAS paramedics attended the scene in Bishopsgate Thursday morning. 4 people treated outside. 1 witness told seeing men as well. Toby Holland, a software engineer of cycling's work, told The Guardian he never been interviewed in an altercation before being realised exactly what happened there as well. So the person who was involved in that stabbing as well, we still don't know much about this stabbing, who the person was. I'm not actually sure of the name. But 3 people have been stabbed in central London suspected robbery, and the stabber of that, the person who killed those 3 people, gets my nomination for the Great British Red Devil, alongside, of course, Vladimir Putin for retaliation strikes in Ukraine and Ukrainians blowing up his bridge to Crimea. And maybe I can add a third in. If you're a Conservative MP, Conor Burns got suspended from the witness as well. Zach, what do you make to my nominations?
I agree with most of them, actually. Yeah, pretty much right. Let's get my ones out of the way. The British Star goes to the Ukrainian army for their attacking of Crimean Bridge. Happy birthday, Vladimir Putin. Here's your present, a damaged bridge. Let's just say that as well. It was a strategically good target. May not have done their full effect, but it was a symbolic effect as well, I have to say, targeting the bridge. No doubt about that as well. Well done to them. Max Verstappen gets the second British Star of the week for me. Obviously, he's 2-time World Championship, completely dominating fashion. Just great. You know, he matured over the last year and he's driven so well. He's just great overall trial. He's been mental this season. Great job by him. He's the British star as well. Red Devils as well. I have to say the police officer that goes on the massacre in Thailand gets the Red Devil. And I'm also going to give it to Connor Burns as well. I was going to mention this. He got suspended this week. The whip got taken off him this week, and he's no he's no longer a minister, by the way. He inappropriate conduct, serious misconduct was reported as the reason. We've had some people speak out. Mel B, the Spice Girl, has actually spoken out about this. Actually, she put on social media, obviously in the response to Connor Burns's reasoning for suspension, she put, "Really, you shocked at this complaint? Let me remind you what you said about me in the lift." Oh dear. It was also rumored that Connor Burns may have touched a men's thigh as well. I thought Sex Pests was not supposed to be round, unfortunately, but it appears that still be the case. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So yeah, that's my Red Devils and British Stars this week. Max Verstappen, Ukrainian Army is the British Stars, and the Thailand massacre idiot police officer, ex-police officer, and Connor Burns is the Red Devils this week.
Yeah, plenty of that to come. And that's all I've got time for on the Charlie Tolhurst Show this week. We'll be back next week to round up more news. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.